Hello everyone, welcome to this third session of the training program on Introduction to Python Programming and its applications in water resources sector. In the first two sessions, we have seen installation of Python on your system along with the Anaconda distribution. We have seen creation of environment and installation of various Python packages using Conda installer using in the Anaconda command prompt. Then we have seen Anaconda Navigator, the guided user interface for Anaconda distribution. And then we have seen the utility of Jupyter notebooks, which we will be going to use all through the training program for writing and execution of Python code. And then we have seen the basic data types in Python, which are strings, integers, floats, and booleans. We will see more about booleans when we come to conditionals. Then today we will be having a look at compound data types or the data structures in Python. We have seen about data types, basic data types in Python. Now they are fundamental or basic data types. And they can be combined into compound data structures. Data structures are meant to efficiently store, organize, and access the data. And you can see that the individual items in data stored in data structures, they belong to basic data types. They can be a combination of basic data types. There are a few built-in data structures in Python which are very useful. We will be mostly working with lists and dictionaries. We will also see tuples, which is an important data structure, and we will just have a look at sets. Now, what data structure to choose for storing your data, for organizing your data and accessing data? It depends upon the type of the data you have, and what is the problem, what do you want to do with that data. Let us start with tuples in Python. Um, we will simultaneously be working in the Jupyter notebook by launching it from the Anaconda command prompt. So I have opened the Anaconda command prompt and I am typing Jupyter space notebook and press enter to launch the Jupyter notebook. It will open the web browser directing to the your working directory where the Anaconda 3 folder is installed. I have created a new folder yesterday of Python WRM and a subfolder notebooks where I am saving the notebooks created during this program. I will create a new notebook here. And you can see that an untitled notebook has been initiated, and you can rename it as 2 notebook number 2 or data structures in Python. Rename and save it. So it has been created. So again I will do the same thing. I will press escape button on the keyboard to get into navigation mode, and then I will press M to convert the cell from code to markdown cell, and then I will press again enter to get into editing mode, and then I will use markdown syntax for creating headings, the level 1 heading, and then I will press shift and enter to execute the cell. This is level 2 heading. So tuples from high school mathematics, we know, we are aware about sequences and series. Now a sequence is a ordered list of values. Each value has an index associated with it. We have seen in yesterday about the strings in the basic data type in Python, that it is also a sequence. it has string indexing starting from 0. It is a sequence of characters. A string is basically a sequence of characters, and it has indexing starting from 0. The first character has an index 0, and so on. So tuple is also a sequence of values in Python. There are many similarities between strings and tuples in Python. Tuple is not any new word specific to Python. Some of you must be knowing about its use in mathematics, where tuples are written by listing the values within ordinary parentheses. The coordinate system, which we say x comma y, it is a tuple. It is a tuple of length 2. Similarly, there will be big tuples, tuples of larger size, with values separated by commas. The same is in the case of Python. Uh, and also that tuples are ordered, and they are also immutable, similar to strings. Similar to string indexing and string slicing, we will also have tuple indexing and tuple slicing. So let us see how to create tuples in Python. There are one simple way of creating a tuple is assigning a list of comma separated values within parentheses to a variable. I am created a variable t1, and I am assigning comma separated values to this t1. So t1 has been created. You can print t1. So you can check the type of T1, which will be a tuple. So this is a simple way of creating a tuple, and this way of creating tuple, this is known as tuple literal, where you are passing on the comma separated values within parentheses, just like string literal. You can to define strings. This is tuple literal to define tuples. So there is another way of defining the tuple using the built-in tuple function. Say t2 is equal to tuple. Now whenever you see the built-in function, it will be colored in green in the Jupyter notebook. So this is an indication that it is a built-in function, so any function. So I can create a tuple using this tuple built-in function. I am not passing any parameter into this, and I can check what it is by printing t2. So it shows a empty parenthesis without any value. So an empty tuple has been created, which you can check by checking the type of t2, which is a tuple. So this is another way of creating a tuple. This tuple built-in function accepts one parameter. Here I haven't passed any parameter, so it created an empty tuple. So let us say I will pass t3 is equal to tuple. I will pass a string hello world. I am creating a tuple with the tuple built-in function, and then you can print t3, which has created a tuple with each character of this string, including the space character. You can check the type of t3, which will be a tuple. Yes, so this is a way to create a tuple using string. Each character with each character of the string becoming an item of the tuple. Let us see if we can create a similar in a similar way. I am passing on integer 1. It gives me an error, type error, saying that int object is not iterable. Actually, this tuple built-in function, it only takes one parameter, that two strings. It doesn't take value 1 or any integer or float value. You may try passing on more than one value, that it again gives the same error. So tuple built-in function can be used to create tuples from strings only. Then we can so let us create this tuple 1 using this method of string tuple literal, using without the tuple built-in function. Say I am saying I am creating a tuple, trying to create a tuple 1 with value 1 in single item 1. So if you check T5, it's an int, it's not an tuple. So whenever you are passing a single value within a parenthesis, Python interprets it as of belonging it as the fundamental data belonging to the same fundamental data type 1, because it is an integer. Python is interpreting it as a single integer only. It is not reading it as a tuple. So you can see the same thing happening even with a single string passing within the parameter, passing single string within the parameters. So you can check the type of T6, which will not be a tuple, it will be a string. Now how to overcome this, you can actually whenever you want to pass a single value into a parenthesis and create a tuple, you have to uh, input comma after the value. Only then Python interprets it as a tuple. So now a tuple has been created and it looks like this, a single value tuple with a comma after the first value. So that is about creation of the tuple by using the values by passing the values within parameters by using the tuple built-in function. Then coming to and as we said, tuples are ordered list. We can also use the built-in function length to get the length of the tuple. Say I am T1, there are 4 items in this T1 tuple T1. I can execute it by pressing shift enter. So length of the tuple T1 is 4. There are, as you can see, there are 4 items. Similar to string, you have used this built-in function of Python len in case of string to know the length of the string. It can be used in case of tuples also. So that is another similarity with strings. Then the major similarity we will see about indexing and slicing. Let us I will put a heading tuple indexing and slicing. So I will create a tuple. Now tuple is, as we said, is a data structure. It is a compound data type. The items of the tuple need not belong to the same fundamental data type. It can be a combination of fundamental data types, like one item of the tuple, one element of the tuple can be an integer, another element of the tuple can be a string, another element of a tuple can be a float, and another element of tuple can be a boolean, that is true or false. So let us create one big tuple T8 by passing the values within the within the parenthesis. That is 1 2 3 4. Then I will also pass strings A, I'll also pass B, I'll also pass hello world. Then I will also pass a float. I will also pass a boolean. So let us check the type of T8. It is a tuple. Now, just as you can access any element, any character of string by its index starting from 0, in tuple you can access any single item or element by with its index. Like T8 and index value you have to pass within square brackets always. T8 0, the element of the T8 at index 0, that is first element, you can see it is 1. Similarly, in case of other, the indexing starts from 0. Then slicing, the same thing as in the case of strings. You can get any subset of a tuple by passing the starting index and then end index. Let us say I want to have first 4 elements. So the indexing, because it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will be for the end index is always exclusive. So it will get me a tuple 1, 2, 3, 4 with index 0, 1, 2, 3, exclusive 4. So this is how you can slice the tuple. Same with negative indexing, it is applicable here also. The last element of the tuple you can get it using the index -1. So that is about tuple indexing and slicing. There is one more way of creating a tuple, and we have a concept called tuple packing and tuple unpacking, which will be useful for us. We'll see that. So you can, what happens if you are passing a series of values separated by commas without any parenthesis. Actually, even without parenthesis, it creates a tuple. And you can check by typing series. It looks like tuple. You can verify by typing type series. It is a tuple. So whenever you are passing a series, a list of value, a series of values separated by commas, the values are getting packed into a tuple. When you are passing the values to a single variable, the values are getting packed into that variable as a tuple. So this will be useful because when we, let us say, when we are similarly when we are you can also unpack the values. Just as tuple packing, you can have tuple unpacking, like for better understanding. So when we talk of coordinates, I am passing latitude and longitude, say 78.5 comma 20.5. I'm passing to this. In the same way, it will create a tuple. Coordinates will be a tuple. And I can unpack the values. Tuple unpacking. I can assign first elements of coordinates to x and second element of values coordinates to y. You can check the values. So just as tuple packing, packing of values into a tuple, you can unpack the values of a tuple into separate variables x and y. And if you combine these two things, the packing and unpacking, you can simply assign at the time of assignment itself, you can simply say x comma y equal to let us say x2 comma y2 equal to 79.5 comma 21.4. So you can make multiple assignment of values to multiple variables in a single line in Python. You can see that 79.5 is getting stored in x2 and 21.4 is getting stored in y2. So that is about that will be useful for us. We will see it later. Then the values, again, it can be anything. We can pass different types of values, like you can pass an integer as well as say I will do one more thing is x2 y2 and location. It can be in any arbitrary location. You can again execute the cell. So xyz, string xyz is storing in location. Now to check existence of value within a tuple, you can check whether a value, an item is present within a, if you suppose you are having a very a big tuple of values, a series of values, say a sensor is observing and sending data through telemetry. Every time it is sending a value, and the value is getting added to a tuple, is getting stored. Just an example, just it may not be the right example, but just so when you want to check whether a particular value is present within that tuple or not, you can check that by using the keyword in. Say we had created a tuple to T8 which has hello world in it. Now let us check whether hello world is in the tuple. Say you type exactly the same string, because it is case sensitive, you have to be careful. So hello world in is a keyword. Again, just as built-in functions, the keywords are also highlighted in green. Hello world in T8. So you can check it and it returns true, because it checks whether this item, specific single item, whether it is present in T8. Yes, it is present, so it returns the boolean type, boolean value true. If there is even a slight modification, it is a different string, so whether it is present in T8, it should return false. So that is about introduction to tuples in Python, tuple data structures. Then let us start with lists in Python. Before going to lists, I think we missed one aspect. We talked about it, immutability of tuples, but we haven't shown the same in the notebook. Let us see that. Let us make use of any tuple which has already been defined. T8. So this T8, the first element of T8 is 1. I will try to change it to 5 and see if it can be changed or not by assigning first element, that is index 0, by assigning it the value of 5 and try to execute by pressing shift and enter. It returns a error. So saying that tuple object doesn't support item assignment. Assignment is not possible. It is because tuples are immutability. We will see how to read errors in Python. We will have error handling in Python as part of a different session later. So that is about tuple immutability. And one more thing is tuple as a data type is most suited, even though we said that elements of tuple can be anything, strings, integers, floats, anything, but tuples, if you see, it is immutable, and means it cannot be altered. So it is very much suited for such data types, such a data series of time series data types where the type of the data is same. And you have to preserve it, and then you want to handle such data. So for such data, tuples are suited. Now let's quickly come to lists. Lists in Python, they are very important data structure of Python. It is another data structure of sequence type. Lists, I will start in the notebook. I will again go back to the navigation mode, convert it to markdown cell, and then again come to editing mode, and then I will start with lists. So, it is another data structure of sequence type, just like tuples and strings, where we have indexing starting from 0 for the first element and so on. List indexing and slicing, again it will be similar to tuple indexing and slicing, and string indexing and slicing. And one of the most important difference between lists and strings and tuples is that lists are mutable. That is, they can be modified once created. So unlike tuples and strings. So we will see that. So these strings, tuples, and lists, which are sequences, they are used for iterating over. In the next session, we will see the loops in Python. These can be used for iterating over. We will see that. Now, how to create lists. Lists can be created simply by creating a list literal and assigning it to a assigning it to a variable. Now this time let us try with descriptive variable names as suggested earlier. I will describe the name of the variable as HO, which stands for hydrological observation site information. HO site information. So CWC, Central Water Commission, has hydrological observation sites which are of various types, like gauge discharge, sediment observation, gauge discharge, sediment observation, and water quality. Similar, and some state government departments have also they have their own sites. So if I want to preserve the site information, like name of the site, the location where it is, the lat long of the site, which will be float type data types, then year of establishment, which will be integer type, and then name of the river, again a string, and type of the site, again a string. So you can have a variety of data types included in the list, giving information about complete information, as much information as possible about that particular site. And we can have a list of lists where you can have information about all HO sites. So in that way, lists will be very useful. Let us see. I am saying okay, anyway, for illustration purpose, I think it is better to go to simpler lists. L1, I am typing it as L1. I am creating a list, simple list. And lists have unlike tuples, whereas tuples are created using normal parentheses, lists are created using square brackets with comma separated values. I am creating a list of numbers 1 2 3 4 5 and let us see the type of L1. So it is a list. So this is how you create a list. List can also be created by using the built-in function called list, which is there is a built-in function called list, which is used for creation of the list. Say I create a list using this built-in function list. As you can see, keywords are identified, keywords including the built-in function names are identified by green color in notebook, which is very useful way of distinguishing. So L2 is list 2. I am passing on a empty list. So if we type L2, it will show an empty list without any element, and the type of L2 you can check, it is of type list. So this is another way of creating the list. You can you can use this built-in list function for creation of list by passing by passing a string into as a parameter to this function list. So I am passing hello world, the string hello world into this list, and let me see what it will lead to. I'm printing L3. So it has again in the as it happened in case of tuples, it has created a list of characters including the space character, a list of strings. In individual string characters are strings in Python. So we have used the list built-in function. Similarly, you can even pass a tuple inside a list for creation of list. Say I am passing this tuple 1 2 3 tuple, and then if I check L4, a list has been created, and then you can check even the type of L4, which is a list. What will happen if I am passing functions are always associated with normal brackets, whether it is built-in functions or created user-defined functions, and you will pass the parameters inside. If I pass, I have passed a tuple, I have passed a string. If I say simple 1 2 3, no, it is not. So that is how there. So we have seen two ways. One is by list literal, and another is by using the built-in list function. And then suppose there is one more list one more function called split function, which creates a list of strings separated by any delimiter, whether it is comma, whether it is space, or any other colon or any delimiter. Suppose, say, take any paragraph, say from yesterday's notebook. I am taking this string, I am passing it to a variable called string1, and then I am trying to get a list of strings from this by splitting this string using this function, split function, split split function, and I am passing a let me see if what happens if I pass if I don't pass any parameter. Yeah, it is by default. I think it is taking space as a delimiter, and it has created a list, a big list with each string separated by space. These are the delimiters. So it has created a list of words with list of strings using this function dot split. So that is another way of creating a list. And for better clarity, suppose you have a string, say I define another string 2, which is a say it is string it is defined in this way, though it looks odd. Uh, let us say you have a list of uh, names of sites. So let us say you have this string and you want to have make a list out using this split function by passing the delimiter comma. Yeah, we have to pass the comma within quotations. So this creates a list of it will create a list of strings again by using this comma as a delimiter. And if you have any colon, or if you have any anything even including space, you can use it as you can split and create a list of any kind of values. So these are the ways of creation of lists. Now we have said that lists are similar to tuples and strings in when it comes to indexing and slicing. You can access list elements by using the index. Let us also see that. Say let us assign this to a list L5 equal to string, and let us run it again and print L5. So I want to access Hyderabad, the element Hyderabad from this list. So its index is 0, 1, 2. So you can access it by simply passing its index, the name of the list, square brackets, and then you pass the index of the element which will access the element. So it is similar to what we have seen in tuples and strings. And then slicing, yeah, it's the same thing. You want to say, let us say you want to have only Pune to Nagpur sub list. You want to have create a list containing only first two elements. You can start with the starting index 0, and you know that it is exclusive. Last ending index is exclusive, so you can pass 0 to 2 colon 2, end index is 2. So it will give you another list of first two elements of the list L5. So it is also similar to the slicing which we have seen earlier. Now one more thing is, you can also even pass step into this slicing. When you are slicing, you can also pass the step. Suppose you let us create another list. L6 is equal to, say, 0, 1, 2. Let us start from 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. say this is a list. Let us define it by executing. Assign the list literal to L6. Then if you want to slice it, now you know that without passing any start or end call index, it will print the whole list, which we have seen in case of string slicing. And we have also seen if you pass only first index and don't specify the ending index, it will interpret it as it has to slice up to the last element. And similarly, if you are not specifying we have seen all these things in case of strings. We are not specifying the starting index and you specify the last index, which is -1, excluding the last, because it is exclusive the ending index, it will print it it will slice up to the last element excluding the last element. Now we can when you are doing this slicing, you can also pass on the step value. Let us say I am not specifying the start index and end index, but I am specifying the step. By default, if you are not specifying the step in all other cases, up till now we haven't specified step anywhere. It means it is taking step of 1 as default. Now I am specifying the step of 2 here as default. Let us see what it will return. So it is returning me the elements which all elements of the list taken at step 2. Means it is giving me elements at indexes 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8. So this is one more thing about slicing. And then elements of list can again be a list. Suppose you create a list L7 which is a list, and within the list, if you create the elements, if you pass lists as elements of lists, and you can, so here we are there are two elements in the list which themselves are lists. So to access the first element, you have to pass the first index, and to that is a list, and to access the first element of this sublist, you can also this is actually a nested list, a list within a list. You can first, to access the first element of the outer list, you pass this, and then to access the first element of the first element, you pass again 0 index. It should access the element 1. So you can see it has accessed element 1 this way. So that is about nested lists, where such index notation is called double index notation. So that is about it. Now let us see about list mutability, which is important, as it is this is a property of the list which is which is not available with tuples and strings. So in let us see how you can modify a list. So let us take L6, which has already been defined, which is a list from 1 to 10. Then let us say you try to modify the first element of the list by assigning uh, 0 to the first element, which has thrown error in case of tuple, but here it hasn't thrown any error. It has executed. Let us print L6. So you can see that the first element of L6 is replaced. It has changed from 1 to 0. So this is how you can modify list. You can modify any element of the list by passing by assigning a value to by passing on the list index of that element. So and also let us try to pass multiple elements. Say you want to change first element and second element, so exclusive of 2, exclusive of 3. You want to change elements at index 1 and index 2. You want to change 2 and 3 to say 11 and 12. You can pass 11 and 12 inside by a list, and you print L6 again. So you can see the element at index 1 is replaced by 11, element at index 2 is replaced by 12, and 3 is anyway exclusive. So this way you can modify or alter the lists. What happens if in case if we are passing more number of elements? Say if I try to pass for replacement of 2 elements, let us try to replace them by, let us try to pass a list of 3 elements. Let us see what will happen. So then also what is happening is we intend to change the elements 1 and 2, so they are getting changed without any issue, and at the same time it is also including the additional element, and it is shifting. So 11 is replaced by 2, 12 is replaced by 3, and 13 has been included, has been inserted, and it is shifting the remaining elements to the right. So this is and what would happen in case if you are passing less number of elements? That will also let us see. Suppose you want to change again first and second elements, but you are passing only the one element. Okay, you cannot assign integers, that means you cannot assign integers single elements to a list. You can do it as a list. So you can see that you intend to change first element and second element, but you have only passed one element which is replaced as first element. 2 is replaced by 14, but there is no second element. However, what has happened is the length has come down by 9. 0 is there, 2 is replaced by 14, 3 is replaced, these elements have moved to the left. So when or otherwise, let us say you intend to change elements 1, 2 and 3. However, you are passing only 2 elements. But when you execute this cell again, what will happen is, because these methods, they are changing the list in the in place, and therefore this output is L6 now. So let's not do anything. So if I want to replace elements 1 to 4 or 1, 2 and 3, that is 3 elements, but I am passing 15, 16, only 2 elements, and then execute it and see what is the list. So what has happened is, the element at index 0, there is no change. The element at index 1 is replaced by 15. The element at index 2 is replaced by 16. Whereas because we are not passing any element at index 3 and 3 and even 4, is even 4, they are replaced. Actually they are replaced, and the remaining elements are moving to the left. Okay, anyway, this is it, we just wanted to see what happens. It doesn't mean anything. So it actually, we wanted to talk about list mutability. We have shown how to replace any element at any index, and how to replace even by a size, by a slice of the same size. It will be better if we are passing the same size of the same slice. You want to replace more than one element, you can do it in this way. Remaining, we can delete these cells, otherwise they will unnecessarily create confusion. So that is about list mutability. Then you can even have arithmetic operations, plus and product, plus and into, operated on lists. Let us see what it means. We have, let us say we define list L8 as a list of strings A, B, and I am also defining L9. I am defining two lists, L8 and L9, and I am executing, and then I am doing L8 arithmetic operation on lists, which is allowed. If I am doing this, you will have the combination of the two lists as a combined list, and there is also product. Like if I take L8, which is list 8, and then I multiply by 2, it is nothing but L8 plus L8. So it will combine L8 and L8, and it will create a combined list. So these are few arithmetic operations which are also allowed in case of lists. Not that important, but just to have some idea. Now let us come to list methods. Now by methods we mean functions. and list methods means function the methods which are available for manipulating lists, which are applicable only to lists, just as we have seen string methods yesterday, which were associated with the class string. List methods are associated with the class list. We will see what is meant by class and what is meant by methods in the object oriented programming class afterwards. So these list methods are available to the lists, which they are very important because lists are mutable. We can manipulate list in many ways using the list methods. Let us see a few important methods. Let us bring any list which was let us declare one new list, L10 equal to, say, let us make use of any list which is already there, L5. So this is a list of sites, cities. There are 4 elements. Now if you want to insert any element at a particular index in a list, we have seen that can be done by assignment, but a better way is inserting using the insert method, insert list method. You can insert a single new value using this insert new method. Now you type L5 and type, because it is a method which is available with the list, you should be able to you should be able to see the complete list using this tab completion. L5, you press dot and then you press tab. In Jupyter Notebook you will can get all the available list methods which can be operated on the lists: append, clear, copy, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. So these are the list methods which are available. I will select the insert method, and which takes 2 parameters. One is index and another is the element which you want to actually insert. So you can insert you want to insert at index 0 a new city, say Chennai, and let us execute it and let us print L5. So you can see that index 0, the new element Chennai has been inserted, and remaining elements have been shifted to the right. So this way you can using this method you can insert any element at any location, and it is altering the list in its place. And it is actually there is a concept called altering in its place and returning none. So whenever you are operating these list methods, or even earlier whenever you are operating those assignment operations, they are happening in place. That is, the list is getting modified in place without we assigning any the result to any new list. If you try to and these methods, all list methods, they return none. It may be a bit confusing. What do you mean by they are returning none? Means it is altering the given list at its place, it is changing, but it is returning it is actually every function returns something, or it returns none. None is also a specific thing with belonging to a none type in lists, sorry, in Python. So this list method is altering the list and it is returning none. We can verify that. So suppose let us assign it, let us assign to the same so I am assigning I am trying to insert another element at index 0, say Mumbai, and assigning it to L5, and if you see L5, it is not returning anything. And if you check the type of L5, it is actually not a list, but it is a none type. What has happened is, so far so good. If you want to insert any element at any position, it will alter the given list, the insert method, and it will change at its place, and it returns nothing. But you are assigning that none to a list L5, is not which, when we are trying to print, it is not printing anything. And this type of none is a none type in Python. So just to tell you that all these list methods, there is no need to assign to the list again. They alter anything, they alter the lists in their place. So let us see what more list methods are there. Suppose you want to insert any element at the end, and you just want if you are giving any. Now, since we cannot bring back L5, we can define a new list L10, which is, say, A, B, it is a list of strings. You can define this new list, and then you can try to insert at some index which is out of range. At index 10, you want to insert F. It has actually inserted F, even though the range 10 is out of range. Without throwing the error, it has inserted at the end. So insert method does this. If you are giving an index which is out of range, generally to insert anything at the end, you can insert it by using the negative index. That is, you can insert at index -1 G, and let us execute it. Sorry, L10 we have dot insert, and let us execute it, and you print L10. So GGF. Okay, the previous deleted cell, it did something. So to add an value at the end, you can simply add it using the index -1. Say you have L8, and L8 you insert at -1 index, say C, and you print L8, you execute it. C is actually getting added not at the last element, but last but one element. Okay. Anyway, if you want to insert any element at the end, you can give its index and the index of the end element, and you can specify the element that is to be inserted. That is about insert list method. Now yeah, we were talking about inserting anything at the end. There is a specific method inside list methods. Let us see that L9 is C and D. Let us say what we are aiming is we want to insert a element at the end, and there is a specific method, list method. You can see that by pressing tab. Yeah, it is append method. Appending means adding at the end. The word itself means that. So you can go by append method, and you can simply give the element that you want to add at the end as a parameter, and you can type L9, and you can see that the EE has been added at the end after C and D. So insert method is the method which is useful for inserting any element in the list and it needs two parameters. One is index and another is element. Whereas append method is a simpler method which inserts any element towards the end. That is you can and it takes only one parameter, that is the element that is to be appended. Now there is one more list method. Just as you can insert any element, you can pop or delete any element. So there is a method by the name by pop. You can see that by pressing tab, and then you can use pop. And if you say, let us say, if you don't pass any parameter inside, it will simply remove the last, it will pop out the last element. So when I am executing, it is popping out the last element E. So that is the utility of pop list method. However, if you want to pop and remove a value, specific value at a specified index, you can also do that. Say L9 dot pop, you want to remove the element at index 0, that is you want to remove C, you can do that. So this you have removed the element at index 0, and the only element which is remaining is D. Just to check, in case of tuple, what has happened with one element, it was not Python was not interpreting it as a tuple. I don't think it is the case with lists. Even there can be lists with one element, and in tuple, a list with a tuple with one element, if it is a integer, it is seen as an integer only, and if it is a string, it is seen as a string only. It was not seen as a tuple unless you are inserting comma after the element. It is not the case with lists. So that is about pop list method, and we have seen insert, pop, and append. Then if you want to add so many elements towards the end, to add several new elements to the list, for single element you can use append. For many elements you can use extend function, extend the list method. You can see that again, you see L9, point and press tab to see the list methods. There is an extend list method, and you can pass on you can pass on any number of elements, and say let us pass on a list of, you want to add to D elements E 1 4.5 various elements. This I am passing a list as a parameter to extend, and then let us see what will happen to L9. So to L9 it was initially only one element D, whereas now it has been extended by inclusion of all these elements in the same order toward at the end, E 1 and 4.5. So that is about extend. Similarly, you can also pass a tuple inside tuple as a parameter. Say I want to add more elements. 5, 6 and 7. So again you can see 5, 6, 7 have been added. The list has been extended to include 5, 6 and 7. So you can pass a list or a tuple as a parameter inside the extend function. That way you can add several elements, new elements to the list. There is there are a few more list methods. If you want to have a count of an element, the number of times it is appearing in a list, let us append E to L9 list. Now L9 has become this. Now let us see the count of element E inside L9. So it returns 2. The 2 E is appearing twice, so it gives the 2. And you can also get index of any element by using the list method. Index. So I want to have the index of the element 1 in the list. You have a big list, you know the presence of a value inside the list, and you just want to check the index for using it elsewhere. So the index is, as it starts from 0, 1 to the index of element 1 is 2, and it is printed. It will be very useful to know the index of any value inside big list. If you have a data set, a big data, and you know a presence of particular value, you can access the index in this way. That is about list methods. You can also have a look at remaining list methods. We will see one more list method, which is reverse. Suppose I want to reverse the order of L9, which is printed here. I can simply use this reverse list method. I need not pass any parameter, and I can print L9, which will generate the elements in the reverse order. That is about reverse. And the one more important method, L9 dot sort. So sort method will be very useful if you have the same type of elements. Sorting alphabetically is possible. Sorting can be done numerically and alphabetically. Again, these all list methods, they alter the list in their place. For this, I think we should use a better list. Suppose we define a list L11. Again, list of cities: Mumbai, Pune, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad. That is list L11. And what happens if you sort it? You expect alphabetical reordering of the elements of the list. However, what is happening, you don't see Ahmedabad at first place, because in sorting uppercase letters are placed before lowercase letters. So first of all, it will sort the uppercase, the strings which are starting with uppercase letters, that is Hyderabad and Mumbai. So Hyderabad comes first, H comes first, and then M. Then in the lowercase, it has sorted as Ahmedabad and then Pune. Similarly, if there are numerical values, it will sort it will sort numerically. The smallest value will by default sort does the sorting in ascending order. The smaller value will come first and the bigger values will come later. However, you can have the descending order also by specifying the parameter by the parameter optional parameter reverse. Say L11 dot sort, you want to do it descending, so you have to pass on the parameter, which is an optional parameter, which is always set to false, but here we want to do the reverse, that is descending, so we are resetting this optional parameter, the default parameter, to true. Then you print L11. You can see that now it has been sorted in the descending order. It will be more clear if we are using a list of numerical values. So let us do that. L12 is 0.5, 3.9, 12.7, 2.3, 7.0, and then you do the normal sort. Normal sort generally it will be in the ascending, it will place. Let us do the reverse sort. So big number should come first and small number should come later, and you print L12, and you can see the biggest number is in the first place and the least value is in the last place. So this is the utility of sort list method. Here we are not passing any parameter to the reverse, which is we will talk about the parameters when we define functions. Some parameters are optional, they are set to some default values, and some parameters you have to pass every time. And before going further, just as in the case of the tuples, where we have checked whether the value of any particular element is present in a tuple or not using the keyword in, we can do it in the case of lists, because lists, we will come across list in data for storing data. To check the presence of a value, this will be very useful. So let us say you have the list L12 defined above. You can check whether the value of 0.5 is present in L12 or not best through this statement, which will return a boolean value true or false depending upon whether the element 0.5 is present in L12 or not. So executing it will return true. So then the next data structure which we will deal is sets. Sets is the data structure as such is not much relevant to us. However, just to give information, set, I will first create the heading. Set is a collection of unique values. Sets are generally created from other data structures such as lists and dictionaries after removal of the duplicate values. Whether a particular it is used to find out whether a particular value is part of a group or not, part of data or not. You can define a set with curly brackets, comma separated values. say you can define set 1 as a set literal, where you can define values separated by commas, and then you can execute it, and you can type see the type of set1, which is a set. So set, as we said, it can be created from any list. So let us make use of any list which has been defined earlier, but none of the lists have multiple elements. Let us define new list and then create a set out of it. Let us say I am defining two lists. List 1, I am saying 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and then I am defining list 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I am defining two lists, and then I am adding them up, or I am saying list 1, I am using the method list1 dot extend list 2, or you can simply say list 1 plus list 2. It will create a new list. It will actually it will modify list 1 in its place, because we are applying the list method extend on list 1. Then you can print list 1, which is a big list containing of all the elements, combined elements of list 1, followed by, in the same order, the elements of list 2. Now if you want to let us say I am defining set 2 is equal to set is a inbuilt function, and which takes parameters for creation of a set, which take list as a parameter. I am passing list 1 as a parameter to this inbuilt function set to create a new set, and then I will check the set, print the set 2. So you can see that the multiple the repeated values are removed and unique values are retained in the set with curly braces. So these are unique values. Let us see if we can access any element of the set using the usual indexing set 2 of index 0. No, it is not. No, it is indexing and is we don't is not applicable to, means you cannot take out elements from a set using by passing an index. So that is about sets, creation of sets. And if I want to check a value, presence of a value in a set, yes, it is the same which we have seen in tuples in list. The same is applicable here. Using the keyword n, we can check the presence of values, unique values in the set. So if you have data which may be having multiple repeated values, you can create a set out of it using the method set, and then you can check the presence of the value. Then you can the set functions we have seen in higher mathematics, union of sets, intersection of sets. So I think those methods should be available. We can check out of intuition. Also you will be able to find many things. Set2 dot tab, if there are any functions, they should appear with tab completion. Set 2, yes, they are there. These are the set methods which are available: add, clear, copy, difference, update, discard, intersection, symmetric difference, union, etc. So we have two sets. I think we have defined two sets, set 2 and set 1. You can see the function set2 intersection set1 and see the result, which again will be a set which is the common elements in set 1 and set 2. Like in set 2, 1, 2, 3 are present, and in set 1 also 1, 2, 3 are present. So similarly, if you can also see set 2 union set 1, which will again be set 2, because set 1 is a subset of set 2. So that is about sets. Then we will come to the final data structure, which is dictionaries. I will create a heading again. So dictionary is an important data structure provided by Python. Dictionaries are not actually sequences like tuples or lists, but it is a collection of data in a key value pair. So a dictionary contains many keys. Dictionary is nothing but a collection of key value pairs. Keys are unique. Each key is assigned with a single value. So whenever you want to have quick access to data associated with the values associated with any key, you can use dictionary data structure. Creation of dictionaries, again we can create dictionaries using the dict built-in method. Like you can create dictionary with dict method, which will create an empty dictionary. Type of dictionary 1 will be dict. So that is one way. Another way of creating a dictionary is by defining a dictionary as a dictionary literal and assigning it to a variable. So let us say I will define a dictionary called car dictionary. Car details dictionary. And dictionaries are defined by key value pairs inside curly brackets, and each key value pair, the format is like a key is followed by colon and then its value can be anything, whereas keys, they can be strings or integers, any immutable objects can be dictionary keys, whereas dictionary values can be anything. They can be integers, strings, floats, they can be lists, they can be dictionaries themselves, they can be tuples, anything. Whereas keys, as I said, mutable objects cannot be the keys, like list cannot be a key of a dictionary. So I will define this dictionary as first key. I will define name, then followed by colon, and then name of the car, Fiat, which will be a string. Therefore it is it's not valid. Yeah, the keys of the dictionaries should be in quotations, whereas the value associated with the key, because this is a string, it has to be in quotation. Then color of the car, color colon, let's say it is blue, and again it should go inside quotations as it is a string. then engine size, say it is 1000 cc, which will be a integer. Then you can say dimensions of the car. You can pass on a list, length 4.5 meters, width 2 meters, then height 1.5 meters. So the value associated with this key dimensions is a list of values: height, length, width, and breadth. So I have defined this dictionary car details. It says invalid syntax. Oh, sorry, I should for key should follow by colon, not equal to. Equal to is assignment operation outside but not inside a dictionary. And then you run it again. Yeah, it has been defined. So you can check the type of dictionary, type of this variable. It is a dict, that is dictionary. So dictionary is not ordered, and you can access values of any values in the dictionary with its key. So I can access the color of the car by passing the key into the square brackets, dictionary name followed by square brackets, and then key, which is color, and then it will result in it will give the value that is blue. Similarly, I can pass any key and to access the value stored inside a dictionary. So this way it provides context to the value stored. See, you can easily see if it is an index, suppose in case of lists etc., it starts with 0 and follows 0 1 2 3, and then it gives to access any element we pass the index and it gives the value. However, such structure doesn't convey context. However, because here the key is, we are defining it as in the name of color, you can easily find the context that the color of the car is blue. If it is in the form of list, we have defined a list of car details, and you have in the list contains the elements Fiat, blue, 1000, and then this length, this list within list. Though you can understand that the order in which you are defining, that the first element of the list is the name of the car, second element of the list is the color of the car, and third element is engine size. However, when you access elements, it is not one thing, it is not readable. It directly doesn't provide the context, whereas in dictionary, because we have key value pairs, and if you name the give proper names to the keys, you will it is very easy to add context to the data. Then dictionaries are mutable. You can add any additional information, like you can add data of year of manufacture. You can pass the key in the square brackets, dictionary name followed by square brackets, and inside the square brackets you have the key year of manufacturing, and you can say 2020, 2015, and you can execute it, and you can see whether the value, whether the car details dictionary has been changed. You can see that year of manufacture key as well as the year 2015 has been added as a key value pair. Therefore, car details, the dictionaries are mutable, unlike tuples and like lists, they can be altered. And each key is associated with each single value. We have talked about it. And what if you provide a new value? to the existing key. Say I am saying car details. I am passing gray value, the string gray to this dictionary key. Then if I print the car details dictionary, so you can see that the color of the car has in the dictionary the color has been changed from blue to gray. That the value associated with the key color has been overwritten. So the last value which has been passed will be retained. So so this provides a unique structure for storing of data, and a value associated with the dictionary can again be a dictionary. So such dictionaries are known as nested dictionaries, and we will see such nested dictionaries when we go to the data analysis and geoanalysis part, which are good for storing relationships, and they are good for storing big data. Then we have seen the creation of dictionary. We have seen that dictionaries are mutable, and we have seen that they are not ordered. Though there is nothing like ordered meaning of order in dictionary, you can access any value associated with a key just by passing the key. However, since after earlier, whenever you used to define dictionary and pass key value paste, it used to every time randomly it used to display information. That was confusing. However, now after Python 3.6, as you can see, when you are passing year of manufacture in 2015, it is getting added in the end. As such, there is no meaning of order in the dictionary, but for visible as seen in the interface, you can see that they are getting added, not to confuse the users. Otherwise, there is no meaning to order. Then you can in the creation of dictionaries, we can create dictionaries even from tuple. We have seen the dict inbuilt function, and we have you can say, suppose you have data of annual rainfall of major Indian cities in the form of tuple. Say annual rainfall cities. So this is in the format of a tuple, where you have elements are again tuples, which are like name of the city and then annual rainfall value separated by comma, say 800 mm, say Pune, comma, again say 850 mm, then again comma, Mumbai, comma 2400. Mumbai is a string, you should place it in quotation marks, and some dry area Jodhpur, say 350. So this is a tuple of tuples containing information about annual rainfall. It is a valid then you can create a dictionary. Actually, such type of information is more it is more convenient to store inside dictionary rather than in a tuple. So you can create a dictionary out of this by using the dict inbuilt. So you define dictionary 3. No, you give a descriptive name, annual rainfall, um, say rainfall of cities, and you pass this annual rainfall underscore cities tuple inside this, and you print rainfall of cities. You check the type, yes, it is a dictionary, and you print rainfall of cities. So you can see it has been stored as a dictionary with the key value pairs, with keys being cities and values being annual rainfall. So such type of data, which we will come across more in water sector, rainfall data, whether discharge data, or there can be many nested in the form of even nested dictionaries. When it comes to raster data, dictionaries are very useful. Then there are some dictionary methods, just like list methods, string methods. And one more thing is, if you want to delete any pair of values from a dictionary, for example, you want to again delete the year of manufacture information from car details, you can delete it by using the delete del keyword, del car details, and you pass the key which is year of manufacture. You take care of the upper and lower cases, and you check the dictionary car details. So as you can find that the key value pair related to year of manufacture has been deleted. To check whether a key exists in the dictionary or not, just as in the case of tuples and lists and sets, we can check whether a key exists in a dictionary or not the value but key, with the in keyword. Keyword, say you can check whether name exists in much better is you use the rainfall of cities dictionary, whether Delhi, the value of rainfall, annual rainfall exists in our database of related to cities. Delhi in rainfall of cities, it returns true. Whether Hyderabad exists, no, it will return false, obviously. Will return false. So you can check the existence of keys in dictionary, whether key exists in the dictionary or not, to check whether value associated with the key is there or not. Then dictionary methods we were talking about, like list methods, string methods. There is one or two important dictionary methods. Let us check whether we can access dictionary methods from tab completion feature. You press dot and then press tab S. These are some of the dictionary methods which are available. Clear, copy, from keys, get, items, keys, methods which are available for dictionaries, which are associated with dictionary class. We will see the method items, which will return a separate type of data type which is not a tuple. It is actually, if you see, it is like list of tuples, but it is not actually a list. There are tuples inside the list, and this type is the dict items, which will be useful for iterating, which will be useful for accessing the data, which is a special type of data and a special data type, which we will see afterwards. And I think that is the important method, dictionary method. That comes to the then that we can come to the conclusion. So we have seen inbuilt data structures of Python, namely tuples, lists, sets, and dictionaries. Lists and dictionaries are mutable, whereas tuples are immutable. And dictionaries have a distinctive structure of storing key value pairs. So we will see the utility of these data structures depending upon the data and problem at hand. As we said in the beginning, you can choose any data structure for data analysis, manipulation, and visualization, for bringing out visualizations. We will see them subsequently. So we can end this session here. Thank you very much.